is Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News. First, the highlights. Rivers State Police Command rescue kidnapped victims in Emowa. Court affirms judgment barring VIO from stopping vehicles. Tinubu swears in Musa as defense minister. CBN raises weekly withdrawal limits to 500,000 naira. Rubio issues visa ban over anti-Christian violence in Nigeria. Awaziem plans to win title with Super Eagles. Rapper Olamide speaks on self-prioritization. Welcome back. Rivers State Police Command has rescued the 5 abducted victims: Prince London, Azubike Kelechuku, Elizabeth Anyete, Onyebuchi Precious, and London Samson, who were abducted by unidentified cultists from their isolated residencies. A statement signed by the police PPRO SP Grace Iringe Koko said the rescue operation was conducted at Rumodogo 2 community in Emowa local government area of Rivers State by the command's tactical teams in collaboration with other sister security agencies and with the support of the community. The rescued victims have been taken to the hospital for medical examination, while efforts are ongoing to track down and arrest the fleeing cultists and abductors. The Commissioner of Police, CP Olubenga Adepoju, warns the perpetrators that he will not rest until all those responsible are arrested and made to face the full wrath of the law, while urging continued collaboration from sister security agencies, the community, and the general public to go about their lawful businesses without fear, because their safety is government priority. Vice Chancellor of Rivers State University, Bolu Oroworoku, Port Harcourt's Professor Isaac Zeb OBP, has ordered the immediate suspension of lectures at the institution's satellite campus in Emowa local government area following Tuesday's abduction of 5 students from their residence. The VC also directed the immediate evacuation of students from the Emowa campus until further notice. This is coming after suspected gunmen allegedly invaded an off-campus residence in Rumuchi, Umuohia, Emowa, shooting sporadically before abducting 5 students. The incident triggered a protest by some students who marched to the VC's office to express their displeasure and the distress suffered by their colleagues. Addressing the protesters, Professor Zeb OBP expressed anger over the incident, adding that the matter would be presented to Governor Siminalayi Fubara, who is the visitors to the university, for guidance and appropriate action, stressing that corporates will be prosecuted. Delta State Police Command, led by CP Olufemi Abaniwanda, has confirmed that a vigilante on guard duty at a hotel in Sapele shot 3 persons dead. The incident occurred at Ibada Olu Elume community in Sapele in Delta State. The police public relations officer, SP Bright Edafe, confirmed the report in Warri. Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has expressed readiness to support responsible investors for sustainable growth in the state. Oborevwori spoke at the groundbreaking ceremony of the Cubana Millennium City in Okpaman in the Oshimili North local government area of the state, and represented by the Deputy Governor, Mr. Monde Onyeme, said Cubana Millennium City speaks to the present and future of the state. He described the groundbreaking as more than the commencement of a construction project, but the birth of a new economic ecosystem, a catalyst for job creation, a driver of investment, and a model for modern urban living in our state. Earlier, the chairman of the Cubana Group, Chief Obina Iyegbu Obi Cubana, said the Cubana Millennium City is a project that will transform into a world-class community, describing it as a destination that will redefine lifestyle, entertainment, hospitality, and investment opportunities in this region, connecting the south and the east. He also said the goal of the Cubana Group is to build a modern ecosystem where people can live, work, relax, and thrive without leaving the environment. Akwa Ibom State Governor Umo Eno has cleared all outstanding loans totaling 39.831 billion naira inherited from his predecessor, Mr. Udom Emmanuel. The Commissioner for Finance and Coordinating Commissioner of Special Duties, MM Borg, who disclosed this in Uyo while addressing a press conference, said out of the 39.831 billion naira paid, the principal was given 34.533 billion naira, while the interest stood at 5.298 billion naira, and attributed the achievement to financial discipline and management without disrupting essential services or ongoing development projects. The Commissioner reiterated the Governor's resolve not to seek loans from commercial banks to enhance the state's internally generated revenue as well as expansion of the revenue base and closure of financial leakages. All Progressives Congress in Cross River State has appointed Ntufam Ekong Ojogu as its acting chairman, following the impeachment of the former chairman Alphonsus Eba over alleged misappropriation of funds, high-handedness and non-payment of stipends to party officials across chapters and wards. Ojogu was unveiled on Thursday at the APC Secretariat in Calabar, where he pledged to stabilize the party and work with its stakeholders to strengthen grassroots structures, adding that the decision was aimed at restoring order and accountability. Ojogu commended chapter chairmen across the 18 local government areas, ward executives, polling unit coordinators and volunteers for keeping the party structures active, and also promised open door leadership, saying he would remain accessible to party members at all times. The acting chairman reaffirmed loyalty to Governor Basi Otu and called on members to put aside differences and unite behind the administration's development agenda. Federal Road Safety Corps has confirmed that 2 persons died and 9 others were injured in a multiple vehicle accident involving 11 vehicles along the Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway. The sector commander of FRSC Enugu State Command, Mr. Franklin Agbakoba, who disclosed this in a statement following rescue operations carried out by the operatives and other security agencies, said 30 people were involved in the accident, and while 26 males and 4 females with 9 males sustained varying degrees of injuries. The sector commander said the accident occurred in the Port Harcourt bound area of the expressway, precisely within the new Garaki Eli area of Enugu State, and the crash involved 4 trucks, 2 trailers, 1 Toyota Sienna, 1 tipper, 1 Hiace bus, 1 minibus and 1 jeep. The sector commander attributed the accidents primarily to speed violations, among other factors. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has pledged to continue ensuring access for persons with disabilities through inclusive policies. The governor spoke at the 2025 International Day of Persons with Disabilities held at White House Event Center, Billingsway, Oregun, Ikeja, and organized by the Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs. Sanwo-Olu, represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Bimbola Salu Hundeyin, said the theme for this year's event, Fostering Disability Inclusive Societies for Advancing Social Progress, speaks directly to the commitment of Lagos State as an act of justice, equity, and responsible governance to participate and lead. The governor said Lagos State remains firmly committed to global principles such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly those focused on equity, education, decent work, and inclusive cities. Speaking at the event, the state head of service, Bode Agoro, said they recognized that PWDs faced challenges and barriers in attaining their development objectives, which are more likely to live below the required standard and continue to face discrimination in all strata. Zone 2 Police Command Lagos has apprehended 20 suspects linked to cultism, armed robbery, and the murder of a police officer in the Ileshi community near Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State. The command spokesperson, CSP Umar Ayuba, who confirmed the statement in Lagos, said the incident occurred when suspected members of the New Black Movement, NBM, also known as the Aye Fraternity, stormed the Ileshi area in retaliation for an earlier assault on one of their members, while operatives of the Zonal Dragon Squad launched a coordinated intelligence-led operation, and the police recovered several exhibits during the raid. According to her, efforts are ongoing to apprehend the suspect still at large, who is believed to be in possession of the late officer's amputated hand. The spokesperson said the security had been intensified across the affected communities as investigations continue, while the AIG of police in charge of the zone, Mr. Adegoke Fayo Ade, have urged recent residents to remain vigilant and promptly report suspicious activities and ensure justice. Katsina State Police Command has recorded 223 criminal cases and arrested 63 suspects across 5 major crime categories in November 2025. The Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Abubakar Sadiq, who disclosed this while presenting the monthly security review at the command headquarters on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, CP Bello Shehu, said the arrests were made for offences including armed robbery, homicide, rape, possession of illicit drugs, and counterfeit currency. He said 22 suspects were arrested for armed robbery, 7 for homicide, 4 for possessing counterfeit currency, 20 for rape and related offences, and 10 for illicit drugs, adding that out of the 123 reported cases, 108 have been charged to court, while 15 remain under investigation. Sadiq further said the command will sustain its operations and called on residents to continue providing credible information to aid crime prevention and investigation. First Lady Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu has marked this year's World Disability Day with the disbursement of 64 million naira in grants to persons living with disabilities across the state. According to a statement signed by the Director, General Media and Publicity, Government House Sokoto Abubakar Bawa, the Mrs. Tinubu was represented at the event by the wife of the state governor, Fatima Aliyu, declared the disbursement of 50 million naira to beneficiaries in Sokoto as part of the broader Renewed Hope Initiative intervention being implemented across the 36 states and the FCT. According to the statement, the First Lady said the program is designed to create long-term economic independence for Nigerians with disabilities and also empowering 250 persons with disabilities in each state, with each beneficiary receiving 200,000 naira, bringing the total number of beneficiaries nationwide to 9,500 under the 1.9 billion naira intervention. The statement said the program has provided food assistance to 22 states and the FCT, including internally displaced persons and other vulnerable groups, and commended Governor Ahmed Aliyu for what she described as consistent support for persons with disabilities in Sokoto State. In a goodwill message, Sultan Muhammad Saad Abubakar applauded Governor Aliyu for what the statement described as people-oriented projects being executed across the state, and further pledged the Sultanate's council's continued support for the government. Jigawa State government has set aside 2 billion naira for disaster response and provision of the relief materials across the state in the 2026 fiscal year. The Executive Secretary of the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, Hanafi Yakubu, who disclosed this on Thursday in Duse, the state capital, shortly after defending the agency's budget before the House of Assembly Committee on Special Duties, said the allocation was approved by the state government. He said the agency would review the recommendations made by the committee to enhance its operations and improve response time. This is coming after about 25 ministries, departments, and agencies are expected to defend their budgets before committees of the Jigawa State House of Assembly between December 3 and 12. All Progressives Congress APC in Zamfara State says Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawale remains more politically influential in the state than Governor Dauda Lawal. The party stated this in response to reports alleging that Governor Lawal has set a condition that Matawale must be removed from office before he would consider joining the APC. A statement on Thursday by the Zamfara APC Publicity Secretary Yusuf Idris claimed that Governor Lawal had previously made efforts to align with the APC, but was not forthcoming in his intentions, adding that the party regards Matawale as a major political figure in the state and referenced his role in the Tinubu and Shetima presidential campaign, where he served as the Northwest Campaign Director General. The APC also accused the governor of opposing Matawale's security efforts in the Northwest, including an alleged refusal to allow the minister to establish an operational base in Zamfara during federal anti-banditry operations. The statement also said Matawale has continued to receive defectors from the ruling People's Democratic Party (PDP) in both Abuja and Zamfara, adding that Governor Lawal is not in a position to set conditions for joining the APC and advised him to approach party leaders in the state if he intends to switch political allegiance. Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has proposed a budget of 861 billion naira for the 2026 fiscal year. Presenting the appropriation bill before the State House of Assembly on Thursday, the governor said 715 billion naira was earmarked for capital expenditure, representing 83% of the budget, while 147.2 billion naira, representing 17%, was allocated for recurrent expenditure. The health sector received the highest allocation of 87 billion naira, followed by agriculture, which also got 87 billion naira, and the education sector was allocated 65 billion. 45 billion naira for public order and safety, 22 billion naira for environmental protection, and 17 billion naira for social protection. The governor reiterated that as a government elected on the promise of rescue, reform, and revival, his administration has worked tirelessly to restore trust in public institutions, rebuild critical sectors, and lay a solid foundation for sustainable development. He also described the 2026 proposal as a budget of stability and growth that represents the next phase of his administration's development agenda. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. President Bola Tinubu has sworn in General Christopher Musa retired as the new Minister of Defense. Musa, a former Chief of Defense Staff, took the oath of office on Thursday at the State House, Abuja, and this is coming after the Senate on Wednesday confirmed Musa as Minister of Defense following the rigorous 5-hour screening. During the session, the former CDS was grilled over recent security lapses, including the controversial withdrawal of troops from Government Comprehensive Girls Secondary School, MAGA, in Kebbi State, shortly before schoolgirls were abducted in November 17, while Musa also vowed to probe the killing of Brigadier General Musa Oba in Borno State, along with other attacks on senior military officers. Musa's nomination followed the resignation of former Defense Minister Mohammed Badaru, reportedly on health grounds. Senators commenced investigation into the collapse of the Safe School initiative by summoning key government officials to explain why the $30 million scheme failed to protect Nigerian school children from relentless attacks. Among those invited were the Finance Minister and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edun, the Education Minister Tunji Alausa, and the Defense Minister General Christopher Musa. The summons was issued by the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Safe School Initiative chaired by Senator Uzo Oji Carlo, Abia North, following the adoption of its work plan during its maiden sitting, while other officials are to appear before the committee next Tuesday. Conceived in 2014 at the peak of Boko Haram school attacks, the Safe School Initiative was expected to fortify learning environments nationwide, but more than a decade later, and after millions of dollars and billions of naira in funding, schools across the country remain vulnerable with kidnapping cases. Surging. Addressing journalists after the committee's inauguration, Carlos said the Senate was determined to uncover why the initiative collapsed despite substantial domestic and international backing, adding that the committee would follow the money trail without compromise. Senate Committee on Local Content has warned that international oil companies and other operators bridging Nigeria's local content laws will face unprecedented scrutiny as National Assembly moves to enforce a new era of strict compliance across the industry. Chairman of the committee, Senator Joel Onawakbo Thomas, speaking at the 14th Annual Practical Nigerian Content Forum in Yenogua, Bayelsa State, said there is a new phase of local content compliance enforcement, stressing that in time for lax monitoring is over, and warned operators that the Senate would not allow violations to continue unchecked. From paper compliance to real, measurable, verifiable enforcement to ensure fairness, discipline, and national interest. The senator said the committee had already taken concrete steps, writing to IOCs, other oil and gas companies, and the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, demanding full disclosures and the widespread abuse of human capital development funds. He also expressed deep worry that Nigeria remained behind in local content after decades of oil extraction, adding that the committee is already reviewing Nigerian content plans, waivers granted, compliance frameworks, and other obligations required of operators. However, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lokbobri, said services that could not be provided locally would be sourced out to foreigners, and the only reason for granting waivers in some cases was because the country lacks local capacity to handle some projects in oil and gas sector, adding that a number of local service providers are operating like middlemen, outsourcing contracts won locally to foreign companies, thereby making the cost of production higher in Nigeria. National Assembly has called for the public naming and prosecution of terrorism financiers in Nigeria as the federal government explores measures to address the growing insecurity across the country. Both the Senate and House of Representatives pushed for the exposure of terrorism financiers during the plenary as a way of addressing the security crisis facing the country, and also demanded capital punishment for kidnappers and anyone who finances, enables, or provides information to them as lawmakers debated amendments to the 2022 Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. The proposal, sponsored by the leader of the Senate, Bayami Bamidele, seeks to classify kidnapping, hostage-taking, and related crimes as terrorism, giving security agencies wider powers to tackle, track, disrupt, and prosecute criminal networks across the country. The debate dominated Wednesday's plenary, drawing contributions from key senators including Adams Oshomole, Orji Uzo Kalu, and Minority Leader Alba Moro. And the Senate unanimously approved the amendment bill for further legislative work and referred it to the Committees on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters Lead Committee, National Security and Intelligence and Interior. The committees are expected to report back within 2 weeks. Leading the debate on the bill, Bamidele said the purpose was to designate kidnapping, hostage-taking and related offences as acts of terrorism and prescribe the death penalty for such offences without option of fine or alternative sentence. He warned that kidnapping had evolved into coordinated, commercialized and militarized acts of violence perpetrated by organized criminal groups with the purpose of instilling widespread fear in communities, undermined national economic activities and agricultural output, interrupted children's education, bankrupted families, forced to pay ransom, overstressed security forces and claimed countless innocent lives, adding that the Senate is making it necessary to treat the offense under the counter-terrorism framework. House of Representatives ad hoc committee is investigating Nigeria's power sector reforms and expenditure from 2007 to 2024 and had accused electricity distribution companies of crippling Nigeria's power supply system through years of poor investment, inadequate expansion, and failure to meet obligations outlined in the original business plans. Speaking during a continued hearing, Chairman of the committee, Honorable Ibrahim Aliyu, said most distribution companies have misled the government at the point of acquisition, presenting impressive business plans but failing to deploy the required resources to upgrade substations, transformers, and distribution networks for more than a decade after privatization. He expressed shock that despite claims by the Transmission Company of Nigeria that it can wheel up to 8,000 megawatts, the discos continue to take only about 4,000 megawatts due to limited infrastructure. A problem, he said, is self-inflicted, while the power distribution firms refuse to invest, expand, and franchise options, thereby creating the conditions for energy theft, meter bypassing, and consumer apathy across the country. He also said many consumers have resorted to illegal connections because they are billed monthly for electricity that is either not supplied or grossly inadequate.
Maybe we will reserve, escalating to the next stage of our legislative power, invoking the necessary steps to compel appearance of the Honorable Minister of Power, because I still believe as a minister, an honorable, and his goal is to ensure that this government succeeds. So we give him up to the 8th of December 2025 to make appearance, after which we will have no option, we will be left with no option than to invoke all the necessary powers of the House to cause appearance by the Honorable Minister. Also, the Prime Minister of Finance too. 3 correspondents were sent, no response whatsoever from the Minister of Finance. We need the Minister of Finance to come and make their presentation just like the CBN did, so that we can have a document to rely on to make reference. Minister of Finance may not necessarily be part of this scrutiny, but information from them are vital to the success of this assignment, except if there is complacency or a deliberate attempt to jeopardize the effort of this committee.
Chief Regulatory and Compliance Officer of Kaduna Electric, Dr. Mahmood Abubakar, said about 60% of electricity supplied nationwide is subsidized, and the trend has continued to weaken investor confidence and limit the ability of distribution companies, DISCOs, to make the necessary capital investment.
Just like the metering project that we did for MAF, that's the Meter Asset Fund, that is being anchored through the Office of the Vice President, Presidential Metering Initiative. In that, we deployed about 3,000 meters, and today the impact we are seeing is like 3 folds of what we normally generate in the same area. So it means if you meter well, you're going to get the result. And I dare to say that our improvement will improve the entire value chain, because we are like the representative of the other players. We interface with the customers. But one of the major challenge we're having, why people are bypassing beyond the poverty and all that, I think there is lack of discipline. There's lack of enabling law that will serve as a deterrent. Imagine somebody steals electricity for a year, and you are only capped at billing him not more than 150,000.
Bill for an act to provide for the enactment of child online access protection and other issues of online violence against the Nigerian child has passed third reading in the House of Representatives. The bill, which is sponsored by Rep. Olumide Osoba, APC Ogun, and Rep. Babajimi Benson, received the majority vote after the adoption of the report on the bill by the Committee on Justice, and also highlighted the urgent need to curb rising cases of online abuse, exploitation, and exposure of children to harmful digital content. The report also provided an enhanced legal framework to ensure a safer digital environment for minors, particularly as technology becomes increasingly integrated into everyday life, stronger protections, clearer responsibilities for digital service providers, and improved mechanisms for reporting and preventing online harms. The House unanimously agreed that existing laws were no longer sufficient to tackle the evolving threats children face on the internet, stressing that the bill will now be transmitted to the Senate for concurrence, after which it will be transmitted to the President for assent. House of Representatives has charged the Ministry of Women Affairs to discharge its mandate of ensuring gender equality, protection and promotion of women and girls' rights as well as their welfare. Committee's chairperson, House Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Kafilat Ogbara, made the remark at the meeting with the Minister of Women Affairs, Hajia Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, at the National Assembly. The meeting was to discuss the shared commitment to the principles of transparency, accountability, and empowerment as the committee conducts its oversight duty regarding the 2024 budget allocations for the Ministry of Women Affairs, adding that the meeting is not merely a procedural exercise, but a vital opportunity to ensure that financial commitment translates into meaningful outcomes for the women and girls of our nation. She said, as lawmakers, it is a profound responsibility to scrutinize how public funds are allocated, released, and utilized, adding that budget is not just a document of figures, but should be a reflection of values and priorities as a society.
Especially now that children have become deliberate targets for kidnappers, heightened vulnerability of women and girls, and other emerging threats to our women and children in Nigeria. Together, we have the power to make decisions that can change lives, uplift and secure communities, and pave the way for a more equitable future. Let me thank all my honorable members for their unwavering commitments, and of course our true he-for-she's that are always here present for their support. I thank you all for the dedication to this important assignment and look forward to our discussions today as we strive to hold ourselves accountable to the women we serve. Let us continue to put Nigeria first in all our endeavor. Thank you all for your attention.
In her response, the Minister of Women Affairs, Hajia Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, said the population of women and girls is an important percentage of the country which needed all the attention to make Nigeria great.
So as the lead ministry for social protection that caters for children, for women, for the family agenda of the country, yes, we have a few challenges when it comes to operations. I know that as a country, we're facing challenges when it comes to the implementation of the 2024 and 2025. But aside that, we're battling with issues around outdated policies and, insufficient guidelines and protocols to be able to, discharge our functions, which is all work in progress. We've set up a committee to ensure that all these laws are, properly, reviewed and then brought to the National Assembly for the final, passage. And another challenges that we have faced is also the issue of funding. And I'm pleased that today the MTF was presented at FEC. Mr. President has approved for me to sit with the economic team to be able to design a budget that reflects the priorities for the women in the country.
Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun, has reaffirmed the commitment of the country's judiciary to protection of human rights as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution and also other international laws and treaties. She said the judiciary remains steadfast in its constitutional mandate to uphold the rule of law and protect the rights of citizens. The CJN spoke on Thursday at the conference on proportional force and respect for human dignity. a dialogue in governance organized by the National Human Rights Commission and the administrator of the National Judicial Institute, NJI, Justice Babatunde Adeniran Adejumo, who was presented by the Chief Justice of Nigeria at the conference. In the goodwill message, Justice Kekere Ekun congratulated the National Human Rights Commission on its 30th anniversary and commended the organizers for holding the conference on International Human Rights Day, stressing that when authority is exercised with restraint, discipline, and accountability, it strengthens public trust and reinforces the legitimacy of institutions. The CJN reiterated the judiciary's commitments to protecting human rights and providing remedies where they are infringed, and further commended the NHRC for promoting dialogue and awareness on critical human rights issues in Nigeria. Court of Appeal in Abuja has affirmed the judgment of the Federal High Court, which stops the Directorate of Road Traffic Services, also known as VIO, from further stopping, impounding, or confiscating vehicles on the road and imposing fines on motorists. The appellate court, in the judgment delivered by Justice Onyejoju Onyewumi, held that the case of the VIO was lacking in merit, adding that Justice Evelyn Maha of the Federal High Court had in the judgment in a fundamental rights enforcement suit last year issued an order restraining the VIO from impounding or confiscating vehicles of the motorists and or imposing fines on drivers. The judge predicated her decision on the grounds that the appellant lacks the necessary legal backing to stop, impound, or confiscate vehicles and or impose fines on motorists, and the suit was filed by a rights activist and public interest lawyer, Mr. Abubakar Marshall, seeking an order to bind the Director of Road Transport, the area commander Jabi, and the team leader Jabi, as well as the minister of the Federal Capital Territory FCT, all listed as respondents in the case. The judge held that the first to the fourth respondents, who are under the control of the fifth respondent FCT minister, are not empowered by any law or statutes to stop, impound, or confiscate vehicles and or impose fines on motorists, while the trial judge has subsequently issued an order restraining the first to the fifth respondents either through their agents, servants, or assigns from impounding, confiscating the vehicles of motorists and or imposing fines on any motorist, adding that doing so is wrongful, oppressive, and unlawful. The judge also issued an order of perpetual injunction restraining the respondents, whether by themselves, agents, privates, allies, or anybody acting on behalf of the first respondent, from further violating the rights of Nigerians to freedom of movement, presumption of innocence, and rights to own property without lawful justification, and dissatisfied the Directorate of Road Traffic Services appealed the judgment of the trial court but lost. National Security Advisor NSA Malam Nuhu Ribadu has warned that any individual or group who attempts to exploit communities, spread terror, or undermine national security will face decisive action. Ribadu gave the warning on Thursday at the dialogue on whole of society approach to the prevention of violence and conflict in northern Nigeria, organized by the National Peace Committee, as well as the Kuka Center and the Office of National Security Advisor ONSH SA in Abuja. The NSA said Nigeria has gone through difficult periods which perhaps more than many other nations, but as is still standing, pointing out that Nigeria has recorded 705 convictions in terrorism-related prosecutions, and the achievements reflect what becomes possible when government institutions, the judiciary, security agencies, and communities work together in good faith. He, however, observed that national security does not begin at the federal level, adding that most of the problems faced by Nigerians are rooted in local dynamics. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has filed a notice of appeal against the judgment of the Federal High Court, Abuja, which ordered the release of 27 properties linked to businessman James Ikechukwu Okwete and his firm Jamek West Africa Limited. The appeal filed at the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal challenges the decision delivered by Justice Joyce Abdul Malik on October 31, 2025. A statement on Thursday, EFCT spokesperson Dele Oyewale said the Commission's counsel, Abba Mohammed San, expressed satisfaction with the ruling, which vacated an interim forfeiture order and dismissed the agency's bid for the final forfeiture of the assets, adding that the Commission is seeking 2 orders from the appellate court. The court ordered the Commission to publish the order within 14 days to enable interested parties to show cause why the assets should not be permanently forfeited to the federal government. Independent National Electoral Commission has concluded the first quarter of its nationwide continuous voter registration exercise, paving the way for public review of the voter register. The first phase of the exercise, which began with online pre-registration on August 18, 2025, and was followed by in-person registration across all 704 local government areas and the Federal Capital Territory, formally ended on Wednesday, December 10. A statement by the Commission's Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Victoria Eta Mesu, urged all registrants especially those who updated or transferred their voter information to user review period to verify the details and file any objections as needed, adding that the review scheduled from December 15 to 21, 2025 will take place at local government offices across the country in line with Section 19 of the Electoral Act 2022. According to INEC, a total of over 9 million people online pre-registrations were recorded nationwide by the end of the 13th week of the exercise, while registration in Anambra State and the Federal Capital Territory remains suspended due to ongoing electoral activities, with new dates to be declared later. INEC urged citizens, especially those who registered, transferred or updated their information, to take advantage of the review period to verify details and file objections where necessary, adding that the second phase of the continuous voter registration is scheduled to resume on January 5, 2026 in accordance with the earlier timetable. And now to some business news. Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has removed the limit on cash deposits and raised the weekly cash withdrawal limits across all channels to 500,000 naira from 100,000 naira. The Apex Bank disclosed this in a circular to all banks titled "Revised Cash-Related Policies," signed by Dr. Rita C.K., Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department, and the circular said with effective from January 1, 2026, the cash-related policies, which are for mandatory compliance by all deposit-taking financial institutions in Nigeria, shall apply nationwide. The statement said cumulative weekly withdrawal limits across all channels shall be 150,000 for individuals and 5 million naira for corporations. Cumulative weekly withdrawals above these limits shall attract excess withdrawal fees. On the limit of encashment of third-party checks, the circular said the limit on over-the-counter encashment of third-party checks is retained at 4,100, while account holders are advised that any withdrawal under this section will form part of the cumulative weekly set above. It also said, as part of efforts to moderate the rising cost of cash management, as well as address security concerns and reduce the potential for money laundering associated with the economy's heavy reliance on cash, the Central Bank of Nigeria implemented several cash-related policies to reduce cash usage and encourage accelerated adoption of other payment options, particularly electronic payment channels. Federal government has projected total revenue of 50.74 trillion naira for 2026, alongside a targeted economic growth rate of 4.68%, while its proposed 2026 deficit has risen so sharply that it now exceeds the entire national budget of 2022 by 2.78 trillion naira. This deficit likely means the government plans to borrow about 16.1% more than what the entire country spent in 2022, while the scale of the gap combined with the high debt service bills signals a more difficult fiscal year ahead. Experts said Nigeria risks sliding into deeper fiscal stress if the government does not tighten its expenditure planning, boost efficiency, and re-establish a credible budget calendar, and also warn that rising deficits, unpredictable budget cycles, and mounting debt obligations could undercut the fragile economic stability recorded in recent months and heighten pressure on households and businesses in 2026. This is coming after the Federal Executive Council approved the 2026 to 2028 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, and the Minister of Budgets and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, briefed State House correspondents after the meeting, confirming that the documents would be forwarded to the National Assembly on Monday. Bagudu said the draft was built on the cautious oil price benchmark of $64.85 per barrel at an exchange rate estimate of $1,512 to $1 for 2026, adding that the assumptions followed consultations with ministries, private sector operators, civil society groups, and development partners. And now to some international tidbits. Israeli military says it will soon strike what it described as Hezbollah military infrastructure in southern Lebanon and warned people in 2 villages to evacuate immediately. The army in an X post shared maps identify buildings in Deba and Maruna villages and warned residents that remaining in the area puts you at risk. And the warning comes a day after Israel and Lebanon held their first direct talks in decades under a year-old ceasefire monitoring mechanism, which Morgan Ortagos, the U.S. Special Envoy for Lebanon, also attended. This is coming after Lebanon and Israel agreed a ceasefire in November 2024 to end more than a year of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah militant group, which broke out after the start of the Gaza war in October 2023. But Israel has repeatedly bombed Lebanon despite the truce, usually saying it is targeting Hezbollah members and infrastructure to stop the group from rearming. Israel has also kept troops in 5 areas in the south despite the ceasefire stipulation that it pulled out entirely. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in a post on X, said the restrictions would affect those who knowingly direct, authorize, fund, support, or carry out violations of religious freedom. And the comments came a day after U.S. lawmakers convened a roundtable in Washington with religious freedom and foreign relations experts to discuss Nigeria's escalating violence and the targeted persecution of Christians. He said the visa policy applies to Nigeria and other governments or individuals that persecute people for their religious beliefs, adding that the move is part of the U.S. decisive action in response to the atrocities and violence against Christians in Nigeria and around the world. The Congress roundtable was part of investigations into the matter on President Donald Trump's directive, and this is coming after last month, Chris Smith, House Foreign Affairs Africa Subcommittee Chairman, introduced a resolution recommending visa bans and asset freezes on individuals and entities responsible for severe violations of religious freedom in Nigeria. In response, McBahn urged Congress to withdraw its visa ban recommendation, saying the resolution blurred critical distinctions between criminal gangs which operate independently and law-abiding pastoralists who are also victims of Nigeria's deteriorating security landscape. United States is set to loosen its fuel economy rules, reversing another Biden-era policy that had been expected to lead to increased take-up of electric cars. U.S. President Donald Trump, who disclosed the proposal at the White House, where officials said the prior standards were not realistically achievable and were driving up costs for buyers. Ford Chief Executive Jim Farley, a car industry leader on hand to celebrate the declaration, called the change a victory of common sense, while environmental groups criticized it as a step backward for the industry and public health. The statement also said transportation is the single biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S., after accounting for more than 28% of the total in 2022. According to the Department of Energy, the previous policy required car makers to reach fuel efficiency of about 50 miles per gallon across their fleets by model year 2031, compared to the industry average of about 27 miles per gallon today, stressing that car makers were free to use whatever technology they wanted to meet the new standard. This is coming after the big 3 U.S. car makers, Stellantis, General Motors, and Ford, which are known for sales of bigger cars like trucks and SUVs, have the least fuel-efficient fleets in the industry, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. And here now is ATN Sports News. Chidozie Awaziem is planning to win the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations title with Nigeria to enable it qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This is coming after Eric Chel's side lost 4-3 on penalties to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the final of the African playoffs, and the West Africans have now failed to qualify for the Global Soccer Fiesta for the second consecutive edition. Awaziem said it is important for the team to move on from the World Cup disappointment and focus on the task ahead, adding that he is hoping to join Nigeria's final squad for the AFCON 2025 finals. The Super Eagles will face the Taifa Stars of Tanzania in their opening fixture in Fez on Tuesday, 23 December. Former Manchester United captain Roy Keane says the Premier League title race is over. Keane made the assertion after the Gunners beat Brentford 2-0 on Wednesday night to restore their 6-point lead at the top of the table, while Mikel Merino and Bukayo Saka got the goals for Mikel Arteta's men. Arsenal have also pulled 9 points ahead of Chelsea, who suffered a shock 3-1 defeat to relegation battlers Leeds United. And now entertainment news. Ace rapper and music executive Olamide Adedeji, popularly known as Olamide Bado, has said he is currently in a phase of self-prioritization and also pushing his own music career, but now he is fully committed to his own well-being. Olamide said he's trying to give myself undivided attention and has brought numerous artists to fame through his imprints, including Lee Cash, Young John, Fuse, Fireboy, DML, Lighter, Ashake, Adekunle Gold, and many others. He also gave many artists their breakthrough features, including Zlatan Ibile, Nana Mali, Portable, Bella Shmurda, and many others. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Rivers State Police Command rescue kidnapped victims in Emoa. Court affirms judgment barring VIO from stopping vehicles. Tinubu swears in Musa as defense minister. CBN raises weekly withdrawal limits to 500,000 naira. Rubio issues visa ban over anti-Christian violence in Nigeria. Awaziem plans to win title with Super Eagles. Rapper Olamide speaks on self-prioritization. I am Favor Chikwesiri Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media handles on Twitter now X at Atlantic TV Net, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do have a wonderful night rest.
from the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
You human trafficker.
Honourable
You are a human